This is me about to pull my first ever shot on the Flair 58 electric. Now, I think I'm a pro, but watch what happens here. Oops, I completely shit the bed. I forgot that with levers, you need to grind your coffee so much finer. And the Flair 58 shows all of your mistakes. G'day, I'm Ride, your coffee coach, and here's my review on the Flair 58 electric. Now, the Flair 58 is a huge upgrade on the Classic, the Neo, and the Signature range. Like, it is just another machine altogether in its build quality, the design aesthetic, and the extraction quality as well. This machine sets itself apart from any of the other Flair espresso makers. But at $600 US, a lot of people claim that it's not worth it because you can buy a Gaggia Classic Pro, a Rancilio, and they're only a couple of $100 more, maybe almost the same price depending on where you buy it, and they can do milk as well, whereas the Flair 58 cannot. So is this worth the extra money compared to the Flair Signature? And who is this for? Like, who would actually buy this machine? Well, I'm going to cover all of that and more in this review, so let's check it out. Oh, and wait, I am running a competition on this machine, so I want to give it away because Flair gave this to me and I want to pass it forward, give it to one of you lovely people watching these videos to help inspire you at your home to get much better coffee quality wherever you are around the world. So keep watching and I'll go through all the details later on in the video, but let's get into the Flair 58 electric review. So I guess my little YouTube channel's up and coming because I popped up on Flair's radar, and so Flair sent me out this machine to inspire me to keep going and making videos, but it's not going to change the way I review things. I'm still going to give a very fair and accurate review, even though I massively appreciate Flair for sending this to me. So a lot of you probably already know the name Flair, or if you haven't, they broke onto the market in about 2016 with their first classic Flair, which was a brilliant design. There are manual machines that have already been around there. There was one in 2004 from ROK. They're great machines, but the Flair really changed the dynamic of the lever manual espresso machines. They were the first people to really think about the design, not just from the engineering point of view, but also the aesthetic. I think they really have captured that design aesthetic, the quality of the build, and also the engineering as well. And of course, there was the original lever from Achilles Gaggia back in 1948, but that was an electric one, very similar in the same sense that this is electric too, but with the Flair Classics, they were really designed to be on the move. So they even made it so easy to disassemble, put back together, a little carry case. So you could take that wherever you go, camping around the world. Now, the Flair 58 is not quite as portable as some of the other designs. You can take it. In fact, you can actually disconnect the electric part of it, but it's a bit bulky. There isn't a carry case, and it's not the easiest to assemble and disassemble in a rush, so it's definitely designed to be more for home use. Now, Flair are kind of like the Apple of the coffee makers because they're not just looking at function, they're looking at form. And this is really a designer's dream. There's just so much beauty. It's such a statement piece. If you had this on your counter, people are just going to ask questions about it, and you're going to have a whole conversation when you're making your coffee every morning. Of course, there's a lot of improvements from the original Flair. The original Flair didn't have the pressure gauge, and that made it really hard to know what you were extracting, whether you're under extracting or over extracting. You had to really wait until you'd finished, try it, and then make it again to adjust it, which is really hard. But they did have an upgrade that you could add in pressure gauge. Of course, you could get a lot more out of it. And if you want to see the full review, you can check out the full video here on the Signature series. When they released 58, they actually tapped into the market that was getting into 58mm portafilters, because up until that point, most people on the appliance machines had been 54, 51, 46 was on the Flair original. The commercial machines, like the Synesso in the background there, actually use a 58mm portafilter, which is commercially received across the world. What it means that every part, every accessory you can get from around the world. You don't have to really worry if it's going to fit your 46mm portafilter like the original Flair. You can just know that every size, whether it be a distribution tool, a tamp, puck screen, will fit on your espresso machine. Now, I think people loved the idea when they first got onto it. However, when the price dropped and people found out it was about $600 US, they were really like, why would I bother upgrading from my Signature or my earlier Flair to this when I still can't do steam milk? But I have to say, I don't think the Flair 58 should be compared to any of the other Flairs or even any of the other machines like the Gaggia Pro or the Rancilio, because it's nothing like it. It sits in its own little pocket. Aside from having the heating element, which is fantastic because, as you know, as soon as you boil the kettle, 30 seconds later, it's cooling down, and you add it to the group head, it cools down even further, and you've wasted all of that energy heating up the elements as opposed to extracting your coffee. So having the heated group head really allows for that to stay consistent, and it is pretty precise. So if you look at it compared to a machine that has a PID, has pressure profiling abilities and flow control, and basically is a lever machine, you're looking at $3,000 anyway for one of those machines. Even the La Pavonis, their lever machines, which can do steam, are around the $2,000. So the fact that this sits in a much cheaper price bracket is actually a testament to how much engineering has gone into it to make those functions and those features available to you for such a cheap price. Now, as I said before, it is really a home machine, but it's a little bit bulky. It doesn't have its own little compartment. You probably can buy some carry cases as well. I wouldn't be opposed to taking this camping, especially if I have a powered site, but even without the powered site, it's just a lovely machine. I think one of my favorite parts is the handle. The handle design is just so sleek and so satisfying to use. Unlike the Signature Flair, this handle, you don't have to apply a massive amount of pressure to it just to achieve that extraction. Really, you don't even have to apply a lot of pressure at all. It just is smooth and just beautiful. The mindfulness that you achieve making your coffee every morning, if you're someone that has a busy lifestyle, but you can put aside 15 minutes to make a couple of espressos in the morning, then I would really recommend this because it's just satisfying. In fact, I actually made an ASMR video, which I will post at the end of this video so you can check that out. We live in a world where we're just consumed with devices. You know, everything's instant, everything's fast, everything's technology driven. It's so relaxing and satisfying to have a break from that. So if you can't tell me you've got 15 minutes in the morning to just really focus on that mindfulness, on that ritual that makes your best espresso and enjoy the peace and relaxation, then you've got to look at your life because you may need to cut something out. It's only 15 minutes, not even that, probably 10 minutes if you're making one espresso, maybe not even that, but it's just the moment of peace and tranquility focused in on a machine that delivers an exceptional coffee. So I think anyone who says this is not worth the money really doesn't understand the capabilities of this extraordinary machine. Now, there's a couple of things to note when using this machine. One, you still have to boil the water. You can't add cold water in here and expect it to heat up, even though the elements does heat the actual group head. I haven't tried it, but I don't think it's powerful enough to boil the water. But once you've added that water in there, it is going to maintain that temperature. And there's 3 settings on the electric. There's a low, a middle, and a high, which equivalents are around that 93 degrees Celsius, 95, and sort of 96. Those 3 settings when you're usually making espresso. Yeah, and if you don't really understand why you should use it, you can just play around with it. Some of the lower temperatures might make the coffee a little bit too bright. Kind of better to have lower temperatures for your darker roasts, higher for your lighter roast coffees. But I've just been putting it on the top and running my medium to light roast, and it's just been coming out. Now, as I mentioned before, rookie error is grinding it too coarse. It needs to be a lot finer than home espresso. It needs to be even finer than commercial. And what I used was the one that's for the Senesso, and that's why I just gushed through. You can play around with the different doses, but just try to make it a lot finer and get a good grinder, because this will accentuate any of your mistakes. Good puck preparation is really essential to this. I would recommend you using the WDT tools to distribute the coffee around. Even it comes with a puck screen, definitely worth using that. Any other tools just to make your puck prep just perfect. You can use a filter paper because, yes, unlike other espresso machines which just hit it with 9 bars straight, you're controlling that flow. So if you don't press down hard enough or you press down too light, you're going to really affect that pressure and the flow. So you really want to make sure that you've got your best puck so that it doesn't crack open and just channel and go everywhere like in my first attempt. I did not grind the coffee fine enough, so rookie error. Now, some of you might know, or maybe you don't, but I put my own money into making this, and other than getting this sent for free, all of the expenses are part of my own, coming from my other business called Coffee Beans Delivered, which sells exceptional coffee. None other than this beautiful Yirgacheffe coffee from Ethiopia, which is full of citrus flavors and beautiful floral notes. Really is perfect. You can get a recipe that'll just dial this in. There's a guy that watches these videos, Dane. He gave me a recipe to run the Yirgacheffe coffee in at 6 bars and just create an exceptional cup. Really, that's the beauty of these machines, is that you can dial them in however you like. And you can purchase this coffee wherever you are in the world. So it would mean a lot to me if you wanted to support this channel, if you wanted to see more videos like that, to jump on Coffee Beans Delivered and grab yourself a pack. If you reach out to me, I'll send you a discount code to make it a little bit more palatable to order some coffee. But you're really not going to be disappointed with the quality of this coffee, especially if you live in the US. I think this is probably the best coffee that could ever touch your shores. I might be a little bit biased saying that, but I think it truly is. But if you can't afford to buy coffee, or you don't want to, that's fine. If you just want to show your appreciation of this content, then just give me a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you could do that if you want. Put a comment in below, whatever you like, just to show me that I'm on the right track. Now, let's get back into talking about this machine. Okay, so I've talked about all the things I love about this machine, and there is a lot to love. There's not much to hate on, unfortunately. I wish I could pick it apart a little bit more, but I'm just getting nitpicky. The few things that I really wish they might change in future models are just the distance that the arms make in the base, because I have a larger difluid scale. It doesn't fit it. I have to prop it up on just whatever piece of equipment I can find around. It's not the greatest. It really only fits the small little Acaia scales because there's just not enough room in between. And then when you prop it up, you obviously lose a lot of the headspace. So when you're making coffees, it's much harder to get underneath and look. So that's just a small little niggly thing. The other thing that is a really probably small thing is sometimes this part comes out. This connection here is really quite fiddly, and you actually have to pull that off in order to get that disconnected, to take your pressure gauge out. Sometimes it just comes off and in the middle of a pour, or this hasn't been connected properly, and then when you're pressing it down, it gets caught on the side here, mid-extraction, and you lose that entire shot. I'm not sure the reasons behind this engineering. There probably is a logical reason. However, this is something that just I've noticed having used it a lot. Just that little tiny connector piece there just sometimes comes loose, sometimes just causes you a bit of grief, and you have to restart the shop. But again, it's only a small part of it. Now, they could probably fix the way this is attached. It's a little bit ugly. You get this big thing on the end here, which only tells you low, medium, high. It would be nicer to show you what the actual temperatures it's trying to achieve. I think that would be more helpful, especially for beginners of espresso, rather than just trying to guess it. But, you know, that's a small minor detail as well. Like I said, there's nothing that I really dislike about this at all. Everything has been really well thought through. I think the last thing that I would say is a little bit of annoyance, but by no means is this a deal breaker at all, is the tamper. It's just a little bit fiddly to get in there, to get it nice and clear like this. Would be a little bit nicer if it was longer, but you can just buy one from any manufacturer. Pullman Tampers, Basado, there are some great manufacturers out there. You don't really need to do that. Maybe they could use a palm tamper that could come included in the kit, just similar to the ESPRESSO. But other than that, I think this machine doesn't have many faults that I can think of. Maybe you guys can tell me leave some in the comments below of your experiences, but I really believe that they've got it right in terms of the price and the market for this. So who should buy this? This is definitely not for the impatient or lazy barista. I think if you're one that's rushing around, don't even bother with this. If you want to try and bring some mindfulness in, then absolutely this is the point of entry. I can't think of a nicer way to make a morning espresso. And as I said before, I've made an ASMR just to show you how relaxing the entire process is. So if you're wanting to bring a bit of mindfulness in, then definitely get one of these. Also, if you're just a lover or appreciator of art, design, then this machine is amazing. Just imagine you're sitting at home, someone comes over, wants a cup of coffee, and you can bring this out of your cupboard, or this is on the bench already. Imagine the conversation starter that this is going to begin. This is really about enjoying the process. The journey is the win, not the outcome. Of course, we're rewarded by the lovely magical gold, but it's about the journey. And that's why I think that the Flair 58 really hits the market correctly. If you're an engineer, you will appreciate the engineering that goes into it. And the great thing about this machine is that there isn't any computer parts. So there's nothing that's going to go wrong. 20, 30 years from now, you can still be using this machine. Even if the electrical part has to be replaced, you can still get that anywhere. And even if you use it without that, it's still going to be great. So this is a machine that will last you forever. And I reckon the style will become a classic that we talk about in 100 years' time about how wacky and weird these machines were that we used back in the olden days. Now, there's a bunch of you that probably are going to say, well, it doesn't steam milk, and I don't see why I would spend this money on something that can't even steam my milk either. Well, these days, I don't think that even matters because there's so many milk steamers that you can buy separately. There's the NanoFoamer Pro, there's the NanoFoamer, there's a whole bunch of other ones. And even if you don't want to buy another piece of equipment just so that you can use this, you can literally just grab your cup, nuke the milk in the microwave, froth it with a $5 plunger, and then have your milk steamed that way. There's really no argument that this isn't doing enough because, like I said, the Lepavoni levers, they are $2,000 and you get the steamer on there. Whereas this is a really, really cheap entry level for anyone who wants to go from a Breville or an appliance machine to something that's much better in terms of the quality of extraction, but don't have the budget. And the Flair 58 is actually perfect for that. Now, as I promised, for those of you stuck around, I'm going to give this machine away. And all you have to do, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and put a comment in the section below that tells me what your favorite natural characteristics of coffee are. For me, in the milk, it's the caramel, the hint of apricots in my Il Caramello blend. And in the black at the moment, I'm just loving Ugandan, strawberry jam, boozy intensity. They're the ones that I really love, but overall, I really enjoy the citrus flavors here of the Yirgacheffe coffee. Those really appeal to me. I love the light, bright, acidic coffees. I just really get into them because I drink them as a long black and a short black, and they just brighten up my day. But you tell me what works for you, because I will try and send you this particular espresso machine anywhere in the world with some coffee. I'll try and find a coffee that suits your palate. If you tell me you want the dark chocolate, if you want the sort of more nutty flavors, I'll try and find one. This is really highly recommended. I really think if you're drinking black coffees, you should try the Yirgacheffe, but I also have a whole range of different coffees. Jump on Coffee Beans Delivered and check them out. But this is for you. So if you want to own this machine, then jump on now, comment on what your favorite characteristics of the coffee, and I will choose someone, send it to you somewhere, wherever you are in the world, with some lovely coffee for you to enjoy. Make your own inspiration every morning. That's what I want to do for my community on YouTube, to say thank you for watching these videos and helping me get the message out there about this lovely thing we call coffee. Anyway, that's my review on the Flair. But before you click off, I want you to stick around and watch my ASMR video. Listen to the lovely sounds of making coffee. I deliberately used an old school grinder. I didn't actually use it to make the coffee in there because it doesn't get it fine enough, but it just was going to be too noisy to interrupt it with an electric grinder. But just watch the video, put on some classical music, and enjoy the relaxing sounds of the Flair 58 Electric. I'm Ryan, your coffee coach, and as always, enjoy your brew.